have never thought of you as my friend. I've never cared about you as a classmate. In this world, winning is everything. Your methods don't matter. I don't care what I have to sacrifice. As long as I have my victory at the end, I'll be fine. You, Hirata, no. All other people are nothing more than tools. I was complicit in what drove you to this. So don't blame yourself, Horikita. You were useful to me. No other words better describe Ayanokoji's psychology when it comes to outplaying his opponents and straight up breaking the game. But the anime only shows you 1% of what this looks like. You never get to see how he takes every single liability and turns them all into assets. How he systematically breaks Hirata's brain to get what he wants. How there's secret strategies behind his secret strategies. Ones that are so violent that the anime wouldn't even touch it with a 10-foot pole. How Ayanokoji could use his physical capabilities to take out Ruin in their first exam without anyone ever realizing. We're gonna dive deep into Ayanokoji's most demonic strategy, the very first time he shows us what he can actually do. By the way, if you want to see me react to the Island exam along with all the other episodes in season 1, it's 100% free. Just go to patreon.com/saadisfy and we get a lot of fun moments like, oh, yo, that. But it is a throwback to Volume 0 because there was like this swimming scene. This guy's not wearing shoes on his bed, bro. What? Oh, the music picks back. Yo, Koenji's just chilling, bro. I don't think they're friends. We have a monologue for that. And this is all the tame stuff. I can't even show you the uncensored stuff here, like the Episode 7 reaction. Links are in the description and pinned comment. First of all, I need you to understand why Ayanokoji was the White Room's quote-unquote masterpiece. Everyone thinks it's the results, but that's only one part. The main reason is because Ayanokoji embodies what the White Room is about more than anyone who came before him or after him. And this is obvious in one of Ayanokoji's best moments that was completely cut out of the show, where he outmaneuvers not another student but his homeroom teacher Sai. Because the assumption is that Ayanokoji showed his abilities only because of Sai's threats, but that's not the whole story. Ayanokoji figured Sai out way before that. He knew that the threat didn't come from a place of strength, but one of desperation. There are 2 cutscenes that show us all of this. During the first exam, Sai deliberately leaves out information that not only hurts Class D, but guarantees Sudo's expulsion. This was not to test Horikita, but to lure out Ayanokoji to see what he's capable of. However, it made Ayanokoji suspicious, and the next scene proved that he was right. Sai invites him and Horikita to the teacher's room and reveals that Ayanokoji scored 50 in every single subject, basically telling Horikita that he is the key to rising to Class A. Ayanokoji knew then and there that Sai was hiding a part of herself. She puts on this whole act of being a teacher who doesn't care, but that's because she never had a class that was even worth anything. She secretly had a desire to climb and knew that this was the year that she could make it happen. Not just Ayanokoji, but Horikita, Kushida, Hirata, Koenji all had a potential to reach Class A. So when she threatens him with expulsion, Ayanokoji knows that this is desperation. An exam must be on the horizon that if they don't win, a comeback is impossible. The fact that his father would bother with someone like Sai is laughable. But desperation can make people do crazy things. For Ayanokoji, even risking a 1% chance on Sai is not something he's willing to do. So he makes Sai think that she won. And he does this by pretending to be angry, by grabbing her collar, making it look like she got to him. He wants to create an illusion that Sai can control him using his secret, while behind the scenes, he looks for ways to get rid of her. We explored before how he did the same exact thing with Kushida, making her feel like she's in control when his fingerprints were on her blazer. Remember, never interrupt your opponent when they're making a mistake. But unlike that time, this move wasn't just a fake out, it was a way to shift the balance of power. Right now, Sai has a vague idea of what Ayanokoji can do. Her dream to reach Class A is uncertain. But if he can show her undeniable proof that he is the only way she's ever gonna reach Class A, then the calculus shifts. Because if he's gone, so is her dream, so he has the leverage. And we see an example of that in the sports festival when her threats stop working. And the way Ayanokoji can make this shift of power happen is by winning the island exam in a way no one else ever has. And to do that, Ayanokoji had to tap into the White Room's ethos, to see everything and everyone as tools to obtain victory, liabilities and assets. For example, he notices Horikita's disheveled hair. She normally keeps herself tidy, and how she spent the entire vacation locked indoors, meaning she must be sick, so she's not gonna perform. This is Ayanokoji's biggest weapon, and it's 100% deleted from the show. Most of us go about our day-to-day lives not really remembering a thing, but Ayanokoji actively engages with the world, picking up clues that we never would. And at an early age, he proved to have superhuman memory. So when you combine the two, he can break apart any puzzle. A great example is when they approach the island. Ayanokoji notices that rather than docking, the ship starts circling the island over and over again. And the island had several man-made structures like an artificial-looking cave, a tower, a hut, even a field of corn. Which means it's the battleground for their next exam. And when the Class D and Class A students get into a fight, Ayanokoji doesn't get emotional. He just observes, noticing Katsuragi pick up the same exact clues he did, which is gonna be important later. And as expected, there was an exam on the island. The teachers give an explanation, but Ayanokoji isn't looking for that. He's looking for a hack. And the Advanced Nurturing High School operated on the same exact wavelength using a practical version of efficiency called Pareto's Law. The idea that a majority of your results are going to come from 10 to 20% of your actions. Like for example, rather than teaching people to study, just buy the test questions. Rather than needing to have evidence to win your case, just have your opponents withdraw. The school rewards efficiency and punishes the opposite. And Ayanokoji understood why Sai was desperate. The school gave them 300 points, and any points saved goes to their class points, the score that controls whether or not you're Class A or Class D. But getting those points the conventional way by toughing it out? Impossible. They do not have the teamwork, so Pareto's Law again has to kick in. But this time, rather than actions, it's people. Because 80% of Class D's capabilities came from a select few. Horikita, Hirata, Kei, Kushida, Koenji, and himself. 6 out of 40, meaning 15%, carried everyone. But when Ayanokoji breaks things down, even that is not gonna work. Because he's looking for certainty. When you want to win, that's the only thing that matters. First, Koenji is like Ash's Charizard. Powerful, but not gonna cooperate, so unreliable. Horikita is sick, and on top of that, her specialty is academics, which you're not gonna need here. You need cooperation. And in Ayanokoji's words, in truth, Horikita's interpersonal skills were well below that of an average person. So unreliable. Kushida does look useful, but Ayanokoji knows better. Her only mission in life is to expel Horikita, so again, unreliable. And finally, Hirata and Kei, who as a pair control the entirety of Class D. Ayanokoji can use them, but not yet. Because from the beginning, Ayanokoji noticed a problem. We didn't get to see any of it because the anime cut all of the scenes out. Hirata and Kei's relationship was announced early, and Ayanokoji got to hang out with them a few times as a side character. And he noticed that they are not like a couple. They don't flirt, they don't use their first names, they don't do anything. Major inconsistencies. Even normies noticed the lack of progress. And the final nail in the coffin was the vacation, because every couple was hanging out with each other, except for Hirata and Kei. Ayanokoji knew that the relationship was a lie, which raises an even bigger question. Why would Hirata be in a fake relationship? There's another cutscene from the anime where Kushida sits down with Ayanokoji and just basically tells him who the most popular guys are. And surprise, surprise, Hirata is in the top 3. Love is massive for high schoolers, so why would a guy with near infinite options fake a relationship? Even Koenji was going on mad dates. Even if it is for Kei, that's an absurd sacrifice, so Ayanokoji realized there's a side of Hirata that he doesn't know. And odds are, it's bad rather than good. That was clear for Ayanokoji to see after he met Horikita and Kushida. On the surface, Horikita is Class A material, but one conversation with her and you'll know why she's in Class D. 0. And I mean zero social skills. But on the other hand, Kushida has fantastic social skills and really good stats. That's why she piqued Ayanokoji's interest, because there is no reason for her to be in Class D. So he went out of his way to discover Kushida's dark side. In the show, it looks like a mistake, but it isn't. It was 100% deliberate. She piqued Ayanokoji's interest. Why is Kushida in Class D? It wasn't her conduct, it was her nasty personality. Which begs the final question. Why is Hirata in Class D? His stats are Class A at minimum, meaning there's a nasty side waiting to come out. So again, unreliable. And without Hirata's influence, Kei has none. So again, unreliable. But unreliable does not mean useless, because it is Ayanokoji's job to turn liabilities into assets. So Ayanokoji begins 2 of his side quests to turn both Hirata and Horikita's weaknesses into strengths, while placing the entire responsibility of the win on the only person he can trust, himself. So Ayanokoji has to win an exam about teamwork by himself. How? By using the other skill the White Room armed him with, lateral thinking, finding indirect and creative solutions to problems, to win in a way no one else is playing. This is the skill that made him a monster even amongst the other monsters in the White Room. And when Ayanokoji notices the additional rules, that's where he finds his angle. He treats every bit of information like a variable. Like, if your health suffers, you have to retire. The fact that there are spots throughout the island and you can capture them for additional points. And once you've captured a spot, you are the only class allowed to occupy it. All of this is just pieces to the puzzle, like the base camps that are different from spots. Because your spot expires every 8 hours and you have to reclaim it. But the base camps are final. You pick one and you stay there, and you can't change your base camp without suitable justification. And here is where Ayanokoji finds his unique angle. In the past, the school often withheld information in order to test their students. And when you pass that test, you get a significant reward. The fact that the school didn't outright specify what quote-unquote suitable justification means, it is a test. But the school is reasonable. They will give you the clues you need in order to solve the puzzle. And Ayanokoji knew that the structures he noticed on the island were the first clue. Those structures are spots, so the students will capture them in order to have their bases. However, as we covered, bases and spots are different. If you're careless, you can lose your spot. So what happens when they make a spot like the river their base, but they accidentally lose that spot? It creates a contradiction within the rules, because you can't occupy the spot because another class has it. But on the other hand, you have to be there because it's your base, revealing to Ayanokoji what suitable justification means. A logical contradiction within the rules. Think of this discovery as a golden key that'll open a treasure chest. But you have to find that chest first. And Ayanokoji finds it in the rules of leadership. To occupy spots, you must have a leader. There can only be one leader, and you have to decide by the first day. Otherwise, one is going to be assigned to you at random. And the best part, you cannot swap out your leader without suitable justification. There's the chest, and Ayanokoji has the key to open it. But before he can get the reward, there's one final puzzle. Because what counts as suitable justification to change your leader? What logical contradiction can he exploit? If you plug in spots as a variable, things get interesting. What if you can't occupy spots because you don't have a leader? But that's impossible. The rules dictate that you must have a leader. You are forced to pick one, so you will have one. But is that really the case? What if you sub in the variable of retirement? What if your leader retires? That would count as suitable justification to change your leader. Because you can't participate without one. There has to be one and only one. So the retired leader must lose their leadership status in order to satisfy the rules. Puzzle solved, treasure chest open, giving Ayanokoji exactly what he needed. Because the final rules dictate that at the end of the exam, you have a chance to guess who the opposing leaders are. A correct guess gets you 50 class points, but an incorrect guess loses you 50 class points. Ayanokoji calculates that by using traditional methods, you might save 150 points, but these rules bridge that gap. Because if a class's leader is exposed, they lose all the additional points they gather. So holding spots basically means nothing. which then again further widens the gap. And by unlocking the treasure chest, Ayanokoji can turn their weakness into a weapon. Because his class is terrible, their leader is gonna get exposed. But if Ayanokoji retires their leader and swaps with them at the end, he can make his opponents guess wrong, turning that gap into a canyon in his favor. But luck is not a strategy. Is there a guaranteed way he can retire his leader? Ayanokoji found it within the rules. They all had to wear watches for safety, reporting pulse, temperature, and movement. And the rules state that violence against other classes is punished heavily. These fringe rules basically eliminated every bit of luck, making Ayanokoji's victory guaranteed. This is not clickbait. I literally cannot explain this to you now without the context because it's not gonna make any sense. For example, if I say fire or GPS, does that ring any bells? No? Then you need to keep watching. Because a plan is nothing without execution, and Ayanokoji needs information. So he volunteers to go scouting, which frees up all his movement. And he pairs with Koenji and Sakura, which was perfect. Koenji is bound to disappear and Sakura likes him, so she'll listen to anything he has to say. And Koenji is useful because he confirms one thing Ayanokoji suspected, which is gonna be useful for later. And Ayanokoji guides himself and Sakura to his destination, the most important spot on the island, the cave. There are closer spots, but the cave lets you control 2 other spots, so 3 for the price of 1. But Ayanokoji is not looking to capture it. He is looking to set a trap because he knows Katsuragi noticed the cave as well. There's a tiny chance that he will rush this spot. And for Ayanokoji, the rewards far outweigh the efforts. And it goes better than expected. Ayanokoji notices Katsuragi with a keycard, proof of leadership. The teachers warned them that capturing spots is dangerous because you can expose your leader. But from what Ayanokoji has seen, Katsuragi seems like an intelligent person. Would he really make such a dumb mistake? No. Ayanokoji knew someone else made the mistake and Katsuragi is just covering for them. Otherwise, why walk out with the card in hand that's basically like screaming you're the leader? It's throwing the game. And sure enough, another person, Yahiko, emerges from the cave who must be the leader. There's a tiny chance Katsuragi is trying to trick him as well. Maybe neither of them are the leader and they're trying to lay their own trap. But Ayanokoji solves this by inspecting the cave, seeing that it is captured, so Yahiko has to be the leader. Ayanokoji just got 50% of all the information he needs and he sends Class A to the Shadow Realm. But he does even more, turning Sakura from a liability into an asset. Because she wanted to report this whole thing, but he stopped her and told her not to. He will do it instead, and that later will become a trump card. At camp, Class D picks their leader, and Kushida nominating Horikita out of all people. Ayanokoji found this strange. Kushida hates Horikita. Is she setting her up for failure? Or is there another reason? Either way, this is great. He doesn't even have to use his trump card, because Ayanokoji knows that Horikita's health is not great, and her health can be the suitable justification he needs to force a retirement. And so he completes the first part of his Horikita side quest, turning her from a liability into an asset. But next up is the hardest part of the exam, Ruin. Book Ruin is way more intelligent than Show Ruin because he didn't reveal himself like an idiot. So Ayanokoji has no idea who he's facing. To maximize the amount of information he can get, he starts volunteering for everything. And while collecting firewood with Yamauchi and Sakura, he finds a lead. A student from an opposing class in the distance with a bruise on her face. That's odd because the bruise indicates violence. But the school heavily punishes violence between different classes. But Ayanokoji remembers there was no mention of violence within your own class, so it must be allowed. The student couldn't be from class B because they would not allow violence either way. Unlikely to be from class A either because if there was a fight, Katsuragi would be babysitting, not rushing to a spot. By process of elimination, she must be from class C. Ayanokoji noticed dirt on her nails and disturbance in the soil beneath her. What is she hiding? Before setting foot on the island, they had to put away all their belongings. So it couldn't be anything she brought with her. And if this person had a fight with their class, where would they get the points to buy anything else? Her intentions are probably not good, but if she is from class C, the rewards far outweigh any setbacks. I lied before. Ayanokoji's side quests aren't just Horikita and Hirata. He even had a Yamauchi side quest, turning the king of liabilities into an asset. Ayanokoji pokes Yamauchi, bringing Ibuki to his attention. The entire time, Ayanokoji noticed Yamauchi trying to flirt with Sakura, so to impress her, he'd probably try to help Ibuki, letting Ayanokoji avoid the spotlight, and it went even better than expected. Trying to act like a hero, Yamauchi grabs onto Ibuki's bag and she resists, which is suspicious, and he drops the bag, making a thud noise, which is even more suspicious. Ibuki's story is that she got into a fight with her leader and was thrown out. So again, with what money could she buy anything that would make that noise? What is in her bag? That's the lead Ayanokoji is looking for. But before starting on Ibuki, Ayanokoji makes progress on his Hirata side quest. After collecting logs, Yamauchi and Sakura fail miserably at starting a fire. Ayanokoji knows how to do it, but he pretends not to know. Everyone thinking he can't start a fire is gonna be important for later. And in the dead of night, Ayanokoji investigates the spot where he found Ibuki, and underneath the soil was a transceiver. Who was Ibuki contacting? She was abandoned by her class, right? Next, Ayanokoji checks Ibuki's bag. It was easy because they all had to put their bags together when they went to sleep to save on space. Ibuki very well couldn't ask for an exception, so it was left unguarded. And the noise that her bag made came from a digital camera. Why would Ibuki need this? Out of several possibilities, one stood out to him. Because the only information worth taking a picture of is the identity of their leader. What else is there? The camp layout, the manual? You can get all of this by just scouting. None of that warranted this level of effort. But why need a picture in the first place? Ruin, likely the mastermind, trusted Ibuki with the camera, but why wouldn't he trust her word instead? Several unknown variables, but for now, messing with Ibuki had no drawbacks. If anything, it'll force her to take drastic action. So Ayanokoji pours water on the camera to cause damage. Water doesn't leave a trace, so the damage will look natural. Easy to imagine that it's from Yamauchi dropping her bag, because Ayanokoji can't very well let Ibuki know that he knows. And speak of the devil, the next morning Class C confronts them. They had junk food, which was a clue, but Ayanokoji is gonna need more, which conveniently gave him an excuse to make progress on the Horikita side quest. Because Ayanokoji is not gonna go meet Ruin alone, that's a lot of attention. And he knows Horikita is trying to hide the fact that she's sick. So he convinces her to join him. And she can't really refuse, because refusing means accepting that she is sick. This will make her condition much worse, and Ayanokoji is all for it. And his first confrontation with Ruin is interesting. A giant party which probably cost a lot of points. Ruin confirms that he kicked out Ibuki and another student who defied him, but Ayanokoji knows that is a lie. And he notices a transceiver right next to Ruin, the same one Ibuki had. So that's why she needs it. And he also notices them stockpiling food, so this entire party was just smoke and mirrors. And Ruin is the only true opponent he has because he's the only other person who thought similarly to him, disregarding the inefficient path and zeroing in on the additional rules, using Ibuki and the other student he kicked as spies to uncover the leaders. The plan also saves stamina for future challenges, so Ruin had strategized well. But just like Ayanokoji, it didn't look like he trusted anyone, which made him easy. Next up was Class B, and this is important. Ruin mentioned another spy that isn't Ibuki. But if Ruin meant to use spies to reveal the leaders, then why 2? Why not 3? Why leave out one class? You could say he's being careful, but after Ayanokoji met the guy, that is not likely. The logical conclusion is that there is no need for a third spy, because the third class is not an enemy. And the only way that makes sense is if the third class is an ally. So whichever class has no spy is on Ruin's side. And upon reaching Class B, Ayanokoji concludes that Class A and C are allied because Class B had a spy. So investigating Katsuragi can reveal details about Ruin, and luckily, their next target was Class A. And Ayanokoji's first impression of Katsuragi was that the man is careful because his entire base is covered in vinyl. But one interaction is not data. He needs to know more about Katsuragi, and that is the key to beating Ruin. Each day, Ayanokoji rips a page from Hirata's manual to document the island's topography. But the second reason was nefarious, making progress on his Hirata side quest. And today, Ayanokoji would use what Koenji confirmed to investigate Katsuragi. there's a cornfield near Class A's base. Unfortunately, Sakura is adamant on tagging along, but it's okay, since Ayanokoji's entire job is to turn liabilities into assets. And she provides the perfect cover to kill time waiting for Katsuragi, resulting in their second meeting. And Katsuragi seems like a nice person. He gave them access to the corn since they found it first. He even offers to watch over it for them, but he was cautious like Ayanokoji guessed, fully aware of the dangers of the forest. A second data point and a third is all Ayanokoji needs. On the ship, Ayanokoji noticed 2 additional spots near Class A, and today he would explore them, finding the hut spot below a cliff which was currently occupied by Class A. The other spot was a tower, but Class A did not occupy it. Why? Why not get both? And inside the tower, Ayanokoji walks into a trap because Class A students ambush him. They offer him a deal. If he reveals their leader, they'll reward him handsomely. Ayanokoji turns the question on them, asking who's in charge, Katsuragi or Arisu, and the students claim Arisu. That doesn't make any sense. Katsuragi is clearly in charge. Ayanokoji had all the pieces. He just needed one more to put it all together. And the person who helps him is none other than Ichinose. Ayanokoji runs into her when he goes to scout Class C, and she confirms that Arisu is the one absent, so Katsuragi must be in charge. And now it all made sense, revealing Katsuragi's nature. Katsuragi isn't just careful, he is ultra careful. Being conservative, Katsuragi didn't capture the tower because it was in plain view, but the hut was hidden. So he used the tower as a trap, again with a conservative offer. Because the students Katsuragi instructed worded the deal in such a way that it can never be taken as a bribe, even though there is nothing in the rules saying that bribes aren't allowed. And Katsuragi even goes as far to have the students say that they're operating under Arisu, so this can never be traced back to him. And honestly, Ichinose just comes out and says it. Arisu is aggressive while Katsuragi is conservative. Polar opposites. And on the beach, Ayanokoji notices that everyone from Class C had retired, connecting the final clue. The reason Ibuki required the digital camera wasn't for Ruin, it was for Katsuragi. The ultra-careful Katsuragi wouldn't believe Ibuki's report without undeniable proof. From the deduction he made of figuring out that the classes are allied from before, handing over the leaders of Class B and D must be a part of Ruin's bargain. Because Ayanokoji noticed the Class C students shovel a bunch of food in tents, but why would retired students need food? The extra supplies must be a part of the deal to give Class A resources so they don't need to spend points. And since Katsuragi and Arisu are at odds, Katsuragi must value points above everything else to stay in power. And as for what Ruin gets, that's still a mystery, but he must still be on the island. Because again, given the ultra-conservative Katsuragi, without Ruin, the deal is not gonna go through. And on top of that, Ruin didn't look like he trusted anybody but himself, so he will take up the leadership. And in the rare case that Ruin did give up leadership, Ayanokoji's trump card will smoke him out. Ayanokoji's deduction had revealed the entire board, and all that's left now is to put his plan in motion. And the first step is to complete the Hirata side quest because that's the only thing he needs to manipulate Ibuki. And an opportunity presented itself, a fight between the girls and guys, because someone had stolen Kei's underwear. The girls wanted a full search because obviously they're gonna blame the guys by default. And when Ayanokoji was hanging out with Ike and Yamauchi, they realized that Ike had the stolen underwear. Ayanokoji knew that Ike wasn't the thief because even he's not stupid enough to steal the thing and put it in his own bag. Ike completely freaks out and hands the problem to our boy, and under normal circumstances, Ayanokoji would just throw it back because avoiding attention is his policy. But he held on to it because there's an idea he needs to test. Because the person doing the checking was Hirata, and Ayanokoji didn't even hide the underwear properly because he wants to see what Hirata is gonna do. And it went as expected. Even though Hirata noticed the stolen goods, he acted like he didn't. Hirata tells Ayanokoji that he believes he's innocent, but Ayanokoji is not buying it. Because Hirata even gives Ayanokoji an offer, enlisting him to catch the thief, but he also gives him a warning. that if he finds the culprit, he is under no circumstance to tell anybody else but Hirata. Ayanokoji knew it wasn't a real mission. Hirata offered this to him as a lifeline so he doesn't steal more. Ayanokoji now understood that Hirata's plan was to cover up the truth from the very beginning, no matter what happened. No matter who stole the underwear, he would always hide it. Hirata's actions so far were always that of the perfect leader, but Ayanokoji begins questioning it. Hirata Yusuke, are you Class D's hero? And his next interaction with Horikita completely solves the puzzle, because Horikita revealed that the girls are not playing fair. While the guys toughed it out like Spartans, the girls were spending points on luxuries. And Hirata all this time was agreeing in secret to keep them happy. And now, it all made sense. Hirata did not care for right or wrong. He only cared about keeping the peace no matter what. Even if it meant letting the underwear thief get away. Even if it meant wasting all their points and losing this exam. Even if it meant never reaching Class A. This was the side Hirata kept hidden, similarly to Kushida. Hirata was running away from something that made him make everybody else get along, no matter what. Ayanokoji had now finished the Hirata side quest, and as for the reward, he would use it when the time is right. But this begs the question, who stole the underwear? To Ayanokoji's surprise, the culprit straight up approached him. Ayanokoji noticed for the longest time that Ibuki had a habit of overcompensating when lying. People look away when they're lying, but she literally looks into your soul trying to make you believe her. And when Ayanokoji asked her point blank if she stole it, she was looking right at him. And also made sense from a strategic perspective. They were all keeping their bags together to save space. But Ibuki needed access to her bag at all times to complete her mission. And now that there's an underwear thief about, all the girls have an excuse to have their bags with them at all times, including Ibuki. All of it was coming along, and what Ayanokoji needed now was to make progress on his Horikita side quest. As the exam comes along, Ayanokoji is tasked with finding food, and he's grouped up with Horikita, Kushida, Yamauchi, and Sakura. And to make progress on both Horikita and Ibuki, he invites Ibuki along. Given that the exam is ending, she must be desperate. So Ibuki agrees. There is another tinfoil theory that I have as to why Ibuki agreed here. Early on, Ayanokoji noticed Kushida nominate Horikita as the leader, which was strange because Kushida hates her guts. So is she nominating her just to watch her fail? But there's no certainty in that. Even if they nominate Horikita as a leader and they fail, it's not guaranteed that she's gonna take damage. It might fall on Hirata or any number of people, but what if there was a way for Kushida to push all the blame onto Horikita? And that could happen by partnering up with Ruin in the same way she does later on. Maybe Kushida dealt with Ruin behind the scenes in this exam, telling him exactly who Class D's leader is. Because tracking all of Kushida's scenes, she went about on as many missions as Ayanokoji, giving her ample space to make a deal. And so maybe the reason Ibuki chose to join their group is because she knows Horikita is the leader. Funny enough, this foraging mission, Kushida wasn't originally supposed to be on it. She chose to join in to want to, quote-unquote, get to know Horikita better. And she ditched her group for it. But why now? Why this time? Is she trying to create an opening for Ibuki as well? Because her actions are highly sus. And whether Ayanokoji knows or not, he would create a much more efficient opening. First, he asks Horikita how she's handling the card, and she tells him she has it on her at all times. Great, his plan can work. Ayanokoji then appeals to her greed. Remember how he stopped Sakura from mentioning their run-in with Katsuragi to everybody? Here is where that tiny story is invaluable. Ayanokoji now shares that run-in with Horikita, lying as easily as he breathes, wondering if Katsuragi is the leader because he might have been holding a leader card, but he's not really sure. So, if Horikita can confirm what the card looks like, they could get an extra 50 points. Horikita then agrees, then Ayanokoji takes a chance to look at the card, make sure Horikita's name is on it, and the fact that it can't be peeled off. And then again, he lies as easily as he breathes, saying that the card Katsuragi had, yeah, it was a little different than this one. Horikita then abandons the idea because she doesn't want to lose 50 points. Remember, lies are important because he can't very well have Horikita guessing the wrong leader when he knows the right one. And when returning the card, Ayanokoji pulls an Oscar-worthy performance, dropping it on purpose, yelling "ah" in the most monotone voice imaginable, making Horikita so mad, but mission accomplished because he noticed Ibuki looking their way. But it wasn't enough because he wouldn't just appeal to Horikita's greed, but Ibuki's as well, by making the bait as sweet as possible. By now, Ibuki should know that her camera doesn't work, so she needs an opening to rob the card. And upon completing the Yamauchi side quest, Ayanokoji will create that opening. Because Horikita is already on edge, Ayanokoji doing anything more suspicious is gonna be bad. But Yamauchi is the class clown. Him pulling a prank is about expected. So he appeals to Yamauchi's greed as well, offering up Sakura's email address if he pulls a prank. Yamauchi had zero hesitation, smearing mud all over Horikita's head as a prank. It did two things for Ayanokoji. One was to obviously make Horikita's health worse, but two, Ayanokoji knew everyone was out looking for food, so when they get back, the line for the girls' shower is gonna be hella long. Since Horikita doesn't want her health to get worse, she has no choice but to use the river, giving Ibuki a chance to act because Ayanokoji noticed her in the shower line, waiting for Horikita to drop her guard. Ayanokoji just waits, and it works out beautifully. Horikita approaches him, depressed that she lost the keycard, and Ayanokoji points her in the right direction that Ibuki is most likely the culprit and she needs to go chase her. Ayanokoji needs Horikita and Ibuki to clash because that's the only way he's gonna get her to retire. Ayanokoji goes on ahead saying he's gonna keep an eye on Ibuki, but he is lying again. His real plan is to create a diversion for Ibuki so she can run, and he'll do this by using the rewards from the Hirata side quest. For a diversion, Ayanokoji needs chaos, and Hirata can't keep Class D together when he himself is falling apart. And this is where all of Ayanokoji's actions come together. Ayanokoji makes use of the pages he stole from the manual one day at a time to start the fire. That's why early on he pretended he couldn't start one, so they would never suspect him. With fire, there was panic. Everybody was arguing with each other. The vibe was not there. The peace Hirata did so much to keep was gone, along with his mental. And he got ugly, asking why everyone was doing this. What even was the point in him trying? And how it was all like that time before, with Class D basically crashing out and nobody there to keep them together. Ibuki escapes and Horikita chases after her, just like Ayanokoji planned. When Ayanokoji arrives, he expects Horikita to collapse and for the deal to take place. And without a flashlight, Ayanokoji could not see a thing. But through his deduction, he knew what was up. Ibuki used a transceiver to call Ruin, and they confirmed the identity of Class D's leader. With no way to alter or even rub the name out, Katsuragi had his undeniable proof, and both of them would guess Horikita as the leader. But given how all of this played out, it's easy to call it luck. What if Ibuki wasn't an idiot and hid the transceiver better? What if Ruin didn't stay back and use someone else as the leader? Or at least not make it obvious that he's the one staying back on the island? What if Ayanokoji had to deal with a much more formidable Class C? Ayanokoji had an answer to every single question, and it all came down to what they were all wearing: the watch. As I mentioned during Ibuki's scene, violence is restricted between classes, but there was no mention of within your own class. So what Ayanokoji could do is go on a leisurely walk, smash his watch so the school could no longer track him. The school mentioned a penalty, but it's a small price to pay. Because once off the radar, Ayanokoji could isolate his own leader and take them out. Given the martial arts training he has, it would barely be an inconvenience. Remember, this is the forest. It's not like a school. There are no cameras. But what if it was someone with a lot of friends? Simple. Ayanokoji uses chaos like the fire. Since he figured Hirata out, it's easy for Ayanokoji to create a commotion that sends everybody every which way, which creates the opportunity for him to take out his target. And Hirata would never be the leader because he's so high profile, so he would never have to isolate Hirata. And even if there was a ban on violence within his own class, no one would report him because that'd be like taking damage yourself. Hirata would never allow it, and he would cover it up like you saw in the sports festival. Ayanokoji knew he always had that insurance plan. And on top of that, smashing his watch means there's no proof it was Ayanokoji since they can't track his movements. And like you saw during Sudo's trial, without proof, there is no penalty. You think this is crazy? This is canon. Another character is gonna use the same exact strategy in the second year island exam. the author showed us the trick in the second year to clue us in that it was possible in the first year as well. Okay, that one's solved, but what about the case where Ruin is not the leader? Well, the watch solves that as well. At any point during the exam, Ayanokoji could just walk up to Sai and ask to buy the GPS location of every single Class C student. Remember, you can buy anything using private points. And that would tell Ayanokoji exactly who is left. If Ayanokoji really wanted to be economical, he could just ask for Ruin's signal. Sounds crazy, but this is canon. Arisu uses it a lot in the second year island exam. Again, the author is showing us a loophole that Ayanokoji didn't have to use. From there, Ayanokoji could again break his watch and then confront Ruin in the dead of night. Because surprise, surprise, he knows where Ruin is because of the GPS location. Ayanokoji can then take him out and then check his belongings to see if he's the leader. Again, it's the middle of the night and Ruin is in a remote location. Who the hell is gonna stop him? And if Ruin is not the leader, then the third last person must be, because Ibuki didn't have a card on her. Ayanokoji checked. Again, Ayanokoji is not trackable because his watch is broken. So it's on Ruin to prove that he did all of this. And even if Ruin brings up, it's like, hey, look, his watch is broken. Ayanokoji could be like, yeah, I went for a walk in the middle of the night and I just tripped. This stuff is really hard to prove, and there is no shot Ruin is figuring out that Ayanokoji used the GPS. Because if he knew that was a possibility, he would have never used the 0-point strategy. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but this is kind of a hard counter. This entire last strategy is a combination of the two loopholes. Isn't that crazy? Ayanokoji didn't even try that hard. No lie, he was actually taking it easy on them. And afterwards, all he had to do is make sure Horikita retires and his GG well played. And if you think this is good, wait till we get to the Zodiacs. You guys haven't seen anything yet. And again, if you guys want to see me react to Classroom of the Elite, just go to patreon.com/Saadisfy. It is all 100% free.